is going on, isn't it? It's a Sunday. It's 10:37, and let's just have a little dial in. If you want to be part of today's show, then pop up, say hello, put your comments in, and let's have a little chat about whatever's on your minds. Seems to me that things are moving fast at the moment. There's a lot of strangeness going on in the world. And we can think politically, of course, plenty going on there in the political world, plenty going on in the domestic UK. And interestingly, we seem to be living through a time where domestic politics are being pushed and driven to a high extent by more international concerns. And there are many people who would be arguing that that's exactly what has happened in Gorton and Denton, with people deciding that they want to talk about that rather than arguably what might matter a lot more, as in what's happening in the local area. So we can talk about that. We can talk about cost of living. We can talk about what Labour might be doing next. I suspect they are, at least to some degree, toast right now. I don't know how long I'm going to be chatting for today. It's a live Sunday session, so we'll chat, we'll kick in some ideas, some thoughts, some comments, some observations. And if you want to put your comments in, your questions, your observations, very happy to try and pick those up as we go. As always, we can talk about politics, we can talk about, interesting, isn't it? The Andrew formerly known as Prince. That seems to have gone very, very quiet. And equally interesting, it seems to be Peter, the other person connected very much with this whole process. Both of these people currently being investigated for misconduct in public office. A crime, which I don't know if you knew this, if it's proven, carries a sentence of up to life in jail. And it seems inconceivable that either Andrew or Peter might find themselves locked up for any amount of time, let alone life. But we are in extraordinary times. Meanwhile, in Gorton and Denton, we have a political approach which and a win which appears to be largely based on politics of other countries, which is a very worrying, dangerous, certainly gives you pause for thought. We are heading into a situation that feels untenable, uncomfortable. And whatever side of the political divide you may feel you stand on, I'm hoping you might recognize that if the entirety of an area's politics are based on what is happening elsewhere, that doesn't feel like it's sustainable. So welcome if you're just joining me. We are on Sunday the 1st of March. It's 10:40. We'll have a bit of a live, we'll have a bit of a chat. I'll take your questions, your comments, your observations. Insta at the moment, we've got 17 people right now on. Hello to all of you. Send me your likes or those kind of comments if you would. TikTok, we have 11 of you on TikTok right now. Hi, Jackie Hilton, Simon, and Harvey Wright. Hello to all of you. Del Boy. Listen, on TikTok, there's only 2 likes so far. So remember, you don't need to agree with what I'm saying, but it would be much appreciated if you do the old tap on the screen just to share some TikTok love on Insta. Hello, David Atkinson, 1964. Zane Welling, Clay Patience, William Shannon, Architect. Just to say, Cad Monkey 247, wide the lads. All right. Platts Matt 8. There's our first comment of the Sunday morning. Peter M should have his lordship revoked as a minimum. I think his lordship title is being revoked, or at least they've started the process for that. The question is, if he was, as he appears to, if those emails were correct, I think 20 minutes or even 5 minutes after a memo was sent from him to the Prime Minister of the day, it was then sent outside of the country. And there's no way that is defensible at all if that is what happens. Amy Ed, hello to you. Howdy, Simon Hogburn. Hey, matey, says Dav Flicks on TikTok. Let's check into YouTube and Facebook as well, see how we're doing over there. Hello to all of you. I can't see your names. I can see there's 12 of you on Facebook, 3 of you on YouTube. Welcome to all of you. It's a Sunday chat, so we can talk about Gorton and Denton, of course. That's what everybody's talking about right now. Davey, thank you for those roses. That's much appreciated on TikTok. Thank you. Where was I? Insta. I forget. Is it a wave? Is it a thumbs up? Is it a like? What is it you can send on Insta? Facebook. I think you can send coins, and very, very keen to receive coins. Not because they're a lot of money. I'll be honest, if I received 100 coins today, I make less than £1. So what's my excitement about getting coins? Well, it's a bit the same as getting likes on TikTok or whatever the equivalent on Insta is. Gifts on TikTok, by the way, often they're a penny or they're tuppence, something like that. It's not the money, it's the signal it sends to the algorithm. So if you like my videos, if you like the stuff that I put out, the satire, the comments, if you like and appreciate that, that helps the platform know that I'm doing the right thing. So that's much appreciated. Just checking to make sure I don't have Marmite. So I say a little bit of Marmite and toast, which is never a good look, is it? So welcome to everybody. Thank you for those roses, Dav Flicks. That is appreciated. Where else are we? 13 on Insta. Beaton, Joe, Steve, and Preston Jones. Hello to all of you. Liquid Max, hello, good afternoon. What do we think? What do we think about what's going on? What do we think about what's going on in Gorton and Denton? And whether or not, by the way, you are a supporter of the Greens or Labour or Reform or Conservatives or make sure I not miss anybody, Lib Dems or any of these people, how do you feel about what appears to be, I think, largely no one's arguing that this is what they did, Greens and their approach for getting a huge number of votes, right? Now, I don't think this is an argument for whether or not Reform could or should have would have won. I don't think this is an argument in favour of any political party. What I'm asking about is the political approach, or the strategic approach, I should say, that the Greens very notably used. That is to say, they used specific languages for specific communities. Everything that they have spoken about appears to be either for those specific communities, or they're speaking in a global term about fairness and everybody having a bit more money. Wouldn't that be lovely? Well, of course, that would be lovely. But they appear to be specifically negating anything remotely linked with what we might think of as Greens philosophy. So I'm old enough to remember the Greens when they were first talking about environmental issues. And it's interesting that they appear to, AMT, thank you for those roses. It's interesting, isn't it? They appear to have completely jettisoned all of that in favor of a kind of a two-prong approach. One, billionaires and rich people are bad and we should all have more money. It's pretty simplistic, but that's what they went with. And two, a whole argument about politics relating to outside of the UK. And if we are now seeing this situation of groups of people bound by ethnicity or religious lines or community areas, we are no longer arguing for how do we get the best for our area or our country or our town. Instead, we're arguing for a bigger image. And that isn't necessarily a very sensible idea, is it? Because it means we're driven by things outside of any of our control. I'm going to be pretty clear about this. I think people in Gorton and Denton, even those who voted for Greens, probably still want roads that aren't knackered. They probably still want all the things that most of us want in our local areas. And Greens didn't appear to touch any of that. They simply said to en masse block groups, do this, and this is where we'll help you. Did they start off as the Ecology Party, says Wade the Lads on Insta? I believe they did. On TikTok, Green Party will destroy the scraps left of this country. I fail to, says Lewis Webster, I fail to believe the people of Gorton and Denton voted for Green, says Des. Well, the people of Gorton and Denton voted for the party known as Greens, but did they vote for green environmental type arguments and issues, or did they vote for a slightly different approach to the way this was done? That appears to be what's happened there in that particular area. Des. Scott, what's your view on Mothin Ali being spotted in the crowd of the pro-IRGC rally yesterday? So this is interesting, isn't it? I've seen that clip, as I'm sure many of us have, and I think we come back to an overwhelming concern. And by the way, this is nothing to do with whatever your personal politics are. This is everything to do with what is it that a political party or representative of that party is arguing about and being involved with. It seems to me fundamentally dangerous. So let's think of an equivalent. If you can imagine a party that stands and gets support for the policies of Trump in this country, it's preposterous. It's a ridiculous argument. But that is the equivalent of what has happened, certainly to some degree, in Gorton and Denton. So the continuing argument about politics outside of the UK. And this is just to remind you, regardless of your personal policies, regardless of this particular set of policies, I'm talking about the strategy. So the two things that I think are misleading. One, the Greens, as we know the name and recognise and understand the name, as Wade the Lad said on Insta, aren't, or didn't they start as the Ecology Party? I remember the Greens who argued about sustainability, who argued about the life of the planet, who argued about how we all have a responsibility to that. And none of that was mentioned. And whilst we think about the Mothin Alley question there, Scott, on Insta, there is a basic and crashing difficulty between the presentation of the argument and what those people were voting for. So if you look at the leader of the Greens, now if you keep in mind his, as I understand it, stated religion, and his, as I understand it, sexuality. Now if you take those two things, they don't necessarily gel very well, if at all, with some of the religions that may have voted quite heavily for this party, which leads you to arrive at something of a Trojan horse argument. In other words, we will use this political party, the people within this political party will use it to advance our personal aims. And we will therefore put out a claim or a call to people to support us in things that they're interested in. But what we are missing is, where's the representation for the people of Gorton and Denton? What about the local issues affecting people in Gorton and Denton? And most importantly, in my mind, no matter what your politics or belief or religion is, no matter, right? I'm saying that right now. Surely the fundamental drive of any representative, locally or nationally, must be for the people in that area and that country, not the rights or wrongs in an activist sense of another country or another issue. That seems to me to be a really serious worry. We are, just if you're checking right now, we're on the Sunday dial-in. Just have a bit of a chat, a conversation. Well, I'll take your questions, your comments, your observations. We have 22 of you on Insta right now. Please do send me a wave. I think it's a wave, isn't it, on Insta? If you could send me a wave right now, that would be appreciated. On TikTok, we have, excuse me, we have 15 people. I'll do some name checks in just a second. TikTok, if you want to send me some TikTok likes, all you have to do is tap the screen. It doesn't cost you anything. Of course, you can send TikTok gifts as well. They would cost you a penny or 5p. I ask for the likes and I ask for gifts if you want to, solely because it helps the algorithm to know that what I'm doing is appreciated by people. Likes are lovely. It's lovely that you're here. If you're not following me, consider following me on YouTube and Facebook. Let's just take a quick look on there. On Facebook, we have 15 people watching right now, and on YouTube, we have 7 people right now. Alison Humphreys on Facebook has gone with I think, a smiley emoji. I think that's a good thing. Thank you, Alison. Much appreciated. Let's get back to some of your comments. Excuse me. They're all corrupt and self-serving, says Daniel. Sorry, I just scrolled too fast there. I'm just voting to annoy the ones that are in, says Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Every politician lies and appears to have a hidden agenda. It's hard to know who to believe, says Dav Flicks. Here's an interesting concept. I believe that many, not all, politicians go in trying to do a good thing for the people they represent. I think what happens is they get caught in, they get caught up, and then they start pursuing separate interests, group areas, and I think probably ultimately they end up trying to sort themselves out, sort their family out, sort their supporters out, and then we end up losing that connection between the individual and what they are arguing for. I think that's a bit of a problem we have there. So True says Buttercup, 1, 2, 3. Every single PM has made me worse off for my entire life. They've all benefited personally. Daniel, I think that's absolutely true. Puffer Doug says it's the Islamic vote. I mean, they absolutely targeted that as a vote. Puffer Dog, that's exactly what they did. And my question is, it's a little bit of a worry, isn't it? Because again, regardless of your politics, I'll be very clear about this, regardless of your personal beliefs or religion, if political parties are targeting a group, whether you define that by community or religious affiliation or whatever, if they're targeting a group and they're not targeting what we can do for you, but we are targeting something outside of a country, a general sense of belief, that feels a worry. That doesn't feel like we are into representative politics. Yaks the Shepherd on Insta says, I'm shocked that Labour got as many votes as they did. Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember that only a couple of years ago, they were sort of 15,000, 20,000 majority. It was a huge number. So they were hugely successful. And of course, then it's all gone really bad. Alison asks, do you think the Iran war will come to UK? Well, there's a big worry, isn't there, Alison? Because countries have a habit of getting involved in things that aren't really anything to do with them. And sometimes there's a reasonable argument for that. Sometimes it's just done as, oh, it's the right thing to do. I think our difficulty remains here. We have now, in the shape of people like Greens and in shape of people like those independent parties, individuals and blocks behind them who have a view, a very strong view on the situation in Iran. And then we end up being exposed to some kind of element of risk, danger, or involved in that in some way. I think that's a big, big worry. On Facebook also, David Bates. Hi, Graham. Hello, David. Great to see you. Happy March. Happy March to you. Love your content. You make so much sense. That's very kind of you, David. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated. Let me keep going with some of your comments. We are just doing a Sunday chat today. By the way, before I continue, if you're liking what I'm doing, please do send me some likes or some coins or some gifts or whatever. It's never about the money. It is not where I make my money. I make my money from content views. The gifts or the coins or those things, they are simply a nudge to the algorithm that we're all doing the right thing. So it's appreciated. If you're not following me on whichever platform you're on right now, please continue to watch, but consider giving me a little bit of a follow later on. And if you really like what I say, this is going to be the end of the adverts at the moment. If you really like my approach, if you like what I talk about, on the profile, there's a link. And the link will take you to a single little link tree that will introduce you to a thing that I run called the Wealth Reset. It's a 5-day thing, and all it does over 5 days, it just talks to you a little bit about making more money, saving more money, and getting better balance in your life. I've worked for myself for 30 years. I run a number of companies. I have good income in my life. I'm a good situation financially and commercially and professionally, and I generally do what I like to do. Now, I'm not saying that my route through life is the right route for you, but Wealth Reset helps you find that route through. So if that's something that appeals to you, if that's of interest to you, check the link on my profile page. You can do the Wealth Reset. It is free. There's a book as well called The Wealth Formula, but I'm not mentioning that. You can look at that if you want to, but it fleshes out the whole idea. I am looking at offering one-to-one coaching for people who like my approach beyond the satirical stuff, beyond the political stuff. I have a philosophy about the whole thing: starting businesses, making money, living better. So enough of the adverts. Let's get back to the comments. Much appreciated everything so far. You ain't seen me right on YouTube. British people prefer to vote for things that will hurt those they dislike the most. I'm not sure that's totally right. You ain't seen me. I see your view there. Excuse me. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. But thank you for joining in today on this Sunday. Let's pick up some more from TikTok. It was things like yes. Will they carry on with taking disabled people's disability income away? Says Buttercup. This is what Labour's trying to do. Well, I think you're giving that very much from a personal perspective there, Buttercup123. I don't know your situation and I don't know your experience of this. Where I think we've ended up at the moment, and this is successive governments, is we are creating a state of need and neediness and expectation of handouts. Greens are leaning into that because it's very popular. See, here's the thing. You can either go out and be massively successful and achieve everything you want in your life. And that, by the way, isn't about business or money or body or partner or things in your life. It's whatever it means to you. So you can either go and do that, or you can be a victim. And being a victim is a lot easier. And I think Buttercup 123, we've ended up in this country particularly, I don't know about other countries, where the state is there to take from people who have made effort and time and have created some money to give to people who now can't be asked. Here's my view, Buttercup. I want people who are genuinely vulnerable to get way more support than they do currently. And I want people who are just basically on the take to get absolutely nothing. We have legitimized handout society. And one of my most successful videos recently, whenever I talk about it, it creates huge numbers of response, is Starmer recently talked about how great it was that, in his words, we have lifted however many hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. The argument is always children starving, or we give them breakfast clubs or more money or whatever, or more children benefit. And those aren't the only two arguments. No one wants children to starve, right? Nobody wants that. There's not one person arguing in favor of that. But the opposite of that isn't, so we'll take more money from taxpayers and give it to people. Because in every group of people where money is being handed out, some of them are in a genuine tight spot. Something's happened. And this is the argument they always lean on. You're going through life, something happens, you are one step away from a major problem. But there are people, and there's no point pretending there aren't, who go, fantastic, free money. I think it's the same with the disability argument, Buttercup 123, which is there are people who need support from the state and they don't get enough. And there are people who are quite happy to go, oh yeah, definitely, I'll lean into that, because why wouldn't they? I think that is a major problem in our society, and we need to have a little bit more self-discipline, a little bit more self-sufficiency. And whenever I argue this, there's always some whinging lefty who pops up and goes, oh yeah, just pay your fair share. It's an incredible argument. Dad Bricky, there's far too much abuse of the benefit system. It's all been made too easy. Dad Bricky, I think it's too easy for people that don't deserve it, and it's too difficult for people that do deserve it. If Andrews feel guilty, can they really send the former prince to prison? Arguably, Dadflix, yes, they can. Crack Duck, we can't have Greens or Reform in power. Both would destroy this country, says Crack Duck. Well, the argument, Crack Duck, is both Labour and Conservative between them have destroyed this country. So the argument for Greens would be, well, we are going to be fairer, more reasonable. We're going to take from the 1% and give to the 99%. The argument from Reform is going to be, we think that too many people are going, thank you very much, hands out, so we're going to sort that out. Now, you don't have to believe either of them, and it might be that each of them could be a disaster in their own way. Gary, oops, no, missed one there, sorry. Abs 599 on YouTube. Hi, aren't all of the events of the last 10 years proof that democracy isn't working? I don't think so, Abs. I think they are demonstrative that where we are and the way we are set up is a mess. And democracy still has to be the right idea, as capitalism still has to be the right idea. But both these things can be bastardized and messed up. I think the single biggest difficulty we have in councils and governments when it comes to democracy is not true transparency. My argument is really simple. If it is paid for by the state, in other words, the taxpayer, then the state must be totally transparent about it. If somebody like Mandelson is hired, when the people or the media go, why was he hired? There should be a clear, instant, that's the series of steps that we took to decide that he was going to be hired. But the state protects itself. When your local council fucks up, sorry, it's a Sunday, never mind, some stupid purchase and loses £500,000 or £1 million of your money, we, the people who put their money in to pay for it, ought to be able to go, where's my money? And they ought to be able to tell you. Last week, my bins weren't collected. I'm a Band H council taxpayer. Now, if I complain to the council, they will go, Well, it's only about £1.50 a week. That's how much the pickup costs. So it's only £1.50 you've lost. That's not the point. I pay Band H council tax, right? And I don't opt in. I'm not eligible for any support from the council other than the stuff that everybody gets. In other words, the one thing that I want, the one thing that I actually actively want, that I'm forced to pay for at Band H levels is bin collections. So when my council fucks that up, I ought to be able to go, well, where's the bin collections? And they ought to go, we are sorry, we'll get somebody around today, or worst case tomorrow, in a small van to pick it up. I understand stuff gets missed. That's fine. But so far it was Tuesday, then they're going to do Wednesday, then Thursday, and then they went quiet. Friday, oh yeah, we'll do it on the next collection. So meantime, I've got a month's worth of rubbish building up before they collect it. That's the problem with democracy. Gary Louth, if Iranian people bake their country, where will the leaders of the country take back? I don't know, Gary. I've got no idea where they will flee. What's your thoughts on the Russian-Ukraine war? Luke, I mean, it's a mess, isn't it? It's like all wars. It's an absolute disaster. I mean, all wars are an absolute disaster. It's an absolute mess. Damascus, the lifestyle lefties have abandoned class and other issues of substance for performative wokery. Damascus, I think that's exactly what's happening. They're pandering to Scots. I think they are. They all say they'll do amazing things in opposition. As soon as they get into power, they don't. Says Davflix in TikTok. I agree with you. Amy, nah, man, you're selling an MLM. No, Amy, I'm not selling an MLM. I don't sell MLMs. They are a disaster. If you're involved in MLMs, you probably know that. If you've tried MLMs, you definitely know that. In fact, I made videos about MLMs, Amy. So no, I'm not selling an MLM. The left's MO, bribe people with government handouts. Yaks the Shepherd, I think you're right. That's on Insta. There's far too. Oh, we had that one already. Contact your local councillor, get them to sort it out with the council, says Yaks the Shepherd. Yeah, I mean, I think the difficulty is Yaks. I can try it. In fact, why don't I try it? Record the phone call and then do it here on one of the videos. It's an idea, isn't it? You're right about people being victims. You're only a victim if you want to be, says Gerard Doherty on Facebook. I think that's a little. That is absolutely what happens. But there we go. Sorry, folks. I think we lost the signal there, didn't we? Let's go that way. That's not too bad, is it? There we go. Sorry, folks. I don't think it's as simple as you're only a victim if you want to be. I think it is true that life is tough. Things happen. How you choose to respond to that, of course, is how you choose to respond to that. And that you do have some flexibility over, that you have some control over. So I think I would certainly agree with that. Sorry, folks, I lost your comments there on TikTok. If you vote, you're supporting the system, says Aidan. Aidan, I'm not being rude. I think that's a really naive and quite childlike argument. I think it's sort of quite a protestery argument. I totally get your frustration with the current system, but equally, I think that if you're going to argue, well, if I vote, therefore I support the system, well, what's your alternative? You're just going to not vote? Well, then you've got even less control. Folks, I'm sorry. I think we just lost connection there. I do apologize. I think we are back broadcasting again. Luke, the battle key. Excuse me. Councils are greedy and selfish. Yes, they are. Councils are really greedy and selfish, and they are ill-skilled. They're ill set up. When you point out to them that you spend X amount of money, they go, well, you know, that's just what it is. I don't know in many cases what it is that people get in return for the large amounts of council tax that we all have to pay. It's obscene, the amount of money that we get stitched up being forced to pay. And what's worse, we are getting less for our money. When I moved here on the Band H, I got bin collections every week. And now I get a refuse collection every 2 weeks and a recycle every 2 weeks. Well, okay. Does that affect my council tax? Nope, my council tax still goes up 5% every year. So there's a huge unfairness to it, isn't there? There really is. Um, Starve the system is better, avoid tax, says Chiefs PC or Chief SPC. Well, again, I mean, I think that's a very common approach, Chief. I think a lot of people who are self-employed or who work for themselves, run their own business, whatever, have the situation. You go, well, I'm going to do what I can, of course, to minimise my tax situation. I think the difficulty with being driven by reducing your tax is that you end up making decisions based on paying less tax rather than what's right for your business or what's right for you personally. But I do agree with you. I think the outcome of a insatiably greedy government is people start going, all right, well, I'm going to do a bit less. I'm going to I'm going to slow up. I'm going to not worry about hitting the targets that I would otherwise have worried about. And I think there is a ridiculous notion, and it's very, very prevalent among left-leaning administrations who have no concept about why people want to pay, feel obliged to pay. Uh, I think at the moment, if we look at our chancellor, her behaviour suggests she and her team believe that if she keeps putting taxes and charges up, people will keep going, oh well, it's quite tough, but hey, we're all in this together, so yeah, we've all got to pay a little bit more. Those with the broadest shoulders will be asked to contribute a little bit more. I think the harsh reality is, chiefs, people go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I think let's talk about something I know a lot about, right? So if we think about investment property and landlords on a small scale. So 20 odd years ago, the last time we had a bunch of lefties in, Gordon Brown started dismantling the pension system. So a lot of people who had been saving and saving and saving realized that the pensions that they were accumulating were going to be decimated by the greedy government. And at that time, there was a move towards getting buy-to-let mortgages. So people started buy-to-let mortgages originally, or in many cases, not all cases, to find somewhere safe long-term to put their money for a pension. That was what happened. And now, of course, as we know, starting 10 years ago, George Osborne started this, private landlords are being dismantled as an idea. The Greens want to abolish private landlords. And what this leads to is less tax take for the government. It leads to, because they've pushed the taxes up so much, landlords just going, I'm out. And that also leads to a worse outcome for tenants. So the whole thing, which was builders making it nicer, fairer, more reasonable, leveling the playing field, it's actually made it worse. It's put lots of tenants in a worse position than they were previously, and it's had the paradoxical side effect of reducing the tax take for the government. In other words, it is a disaster in every possible degree. But that is what this government and the last government managed to do. Aidan on TikTok, was there a government that delivered for the people and not the bankers and the donors? I mean, I sense, Aidan, that you've got a view on government, and your view is that no matter which government you get in, it's delivering for the bankers and the donors. I think that's probably your argument. So if you believe I'm here to argue in favour of government, then you misunderstand me. I can't remember a time when government seemed to be supporting the majority of people. Have they supported historically bankers and donors? We can certainly see lots of examples of that. But I think we also have to argue that the current government particularly is absolutely supporting work-shy and feckless no-marks. They aren't supporting people who need support. They aren't lifting standards. They aren't helping people get their businesses up and running. They aren't helping in education. They aren't helping people who work at a PAYE job. They aren't helping any of those people. They're helping people who are being given money from all of the other people who are making money. So you might argue that the current government is very interested in creating its own market. You might equally argue that the Greens have an entirely similar approach. Platmat on Insta, Trump's mission this year is to remove dictatorships. Who do you think is next? The UK. I see what you've done there, Platmat. Mark B. Palmer, this will be a 3-part due to character limits, so please see all 3. Lol. Okay, Julie warns there. Let's see if we have any other messages in on the other platforms. Do apologize, by the way, if you're enjoying watching this a minute ago. It did go a little bit for about 20 seconds and I lost connection. So I'm sorry. I'm broadcasting from a slightly different place today. I normally broadcast from my studio, but today I just thought I'd have a cup of coffee and broadcast from here. So thank you for those comments and thank you for those likes, by the way, on TikTok. If you do enjoy my lives, just give the screen a bit of a tap. It's much appreciated. Doesn't cost you a single penny. Makes your fingers vibrate, which is nice. Of course, if you want to drop in a little rose or a thing, that's great, but they do cost money. So only do those if you're the one whose card is connected to this page. All right. Don't be doing that if it's somebody else's, because that's not fair on them. Insta, still waiting for this 3-part question here, Mark. You've given it a big build-up. I'm going to, unless suddenly large numbers of people start coming in or comments start blowing up, I'm going to start announcing the 5-minute note for beginning to close this down. Just because, you know, it is what it is. We'll see how we go. But if you have other questions, comments, observations, drop those in right now. Shady on TikTok, good afternoon to you. Who else we got on TikTok? Simon Hogburn, 888. Daniel, 888. You sound like a betting man. John K. Mum. Okay. Louise, user 138. Time for you to get yourself a name. Donald Drump. See what you've done there. Louis Cook, hello, good afternoon to you. Morning. God, it's Sunday morning, isn't it? It is early. On Insta, we have 14 people right now. Russell, hello. Sarah Lee, 50, hello. Rule Coleman, hello. Martin, Carol Jim. Lizzie Rocks. Why have you got one account between you? You know you can have your own account, and it's not. They don't charge you for them. You do what you want. Lizzie Roxy. Mark B. Palmer, they come through yet? No. That's what I've got, Mark. I've got, this will be a 3-part due to character limits. Then I've got, they come through yet. That's all I've got from you. And on Facebook, we have 6 people. YouTube, we have 3 people. Good afternoon. Good. Keep saying good afternoon because I've been up for hours. Good morning to you all. It looks like we have all gone a little bit quiet. Pablo, good morning to you. Yuri, good morning to you. Insta, there's nothing else on Insta? That's it? No. Starve the system, avoid tax. Yeah, that largely means your income drops, doesn't it? Which is not particularly exciting as an opportunity. Folks, it's feeling like we might have come to the end of this live. If we have no other questions, comments, and observations, yes, they did. I saw them. If they'd come through, I'd read them. Platmat, you can see them. Well, I can't see them. I wonder if they've been. I wonder if they've been blocked out for some reason. I'll break it down more. Oh, okay. They've come through. Right. I think such a big issue with all of the UK is they agree to projects that lowest quote. The quote is never the price. Right. Agree. They should rate all suppliers on keeping with their quotes. They can pick someone on rating, not the cheapest. Okay. I don't know why it's taken so long to come through. Maybe it's because it's the streaming software I'm using. I agree with both of those. That would save millions, if not billions, of so many projects and about 3 to 5 times the original quotes. Well, let's talk about that, Mark, and thank you for putting those through, and thank you for waiting for them to come through for me. As they know, when the government buys it in the quote, they'll have to locked in to complete the project, so ask for more and more. Yes, I mean, this is a recurrent problem, isn't it, with governments of all stripes and councils, by the way. It's both the cost and it's the scope. And I think it doesn't help when governments change administrations. I don't think it helps when whoever the minister who is working on that, I've got it now, Mark, yeah. Whoever is the minister in charge of the project has changed. And of course, in government, that changes a lot. We have a very strange situation in this country, which is we kind of tie ourselves up in knots with local planning, and we have all sorts of problems with environmental groups. And by the way, we need to look after the environment, but we don't seem to be working joined up thinking. There seems to be no plan to, well, if we do this, we're going to have to ensure that we keep the local newt population happy. Instead, it's like they launch, and then when they're several hundred million in, somebody go, yeah, but what about the newts? And then everything stops. Nobody goes, right, how do we plan this? And I think it's a fairly potent and poison mix, Mark, of people who are ruthlessly commercial, right? The people who are bought into the projects, their job is to do a decent job for the money and the terms agreed. And they are working with people who are ruthlessly uncommercial. You see, this is the problem. If you work in council or government, you have never in your life had to go out and sell a thing, a product or a service. You've never had to balance what it costs with what you can make for it. You've never had to even make sure your customer is happy. So, small example, just as a side illustration of this. If right now I'm using a platform to broadcast to 4 social media platforms. Now, when I buy that platform, I buy it monthly, and the platform wants me to buy yearly because then they'll give me typically a 50% discount if I commit for the year. I don't buy for the year because I want to make sure I like the platform. Now, this is normal commercial buying behavior. After 2 to 3 months, then what happens is if I like the platform and it's still performing for me, I'll buy the year. Now, at that point, I know I've got a great deal with a platform that works. But the platform knows it needs to keep me on side because it knows that all the time that I'm successfully using this, as are other people, other competitors are looking at it going, right, how do we improve this? How do we get it more service for less money? And so a year from whenever I take that out, that platform absolutely needs to deliver for me because they know if not, I'll walk elsewhere. And that is the difficulty we have with governments and councils. They've never experienced that. They've got no concept of delivering something that works. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work because nobody gets into trouble. Nobody gets their job cut, gets a cut to their wages. Nobody gets fired. Nobody gets any kind of penalty. And the people selling the service, the builders, HS2, great example, to the government, they're just doing what they're contracted to do. And the government get no penalty if they fail to deliver for us. And that, Mark, is an example of why I think in this country we're in such a mess, because none of them have any concept of how to make all this work. Morning, pal, just working, says Daniel. I've got that. Thank you on TikTok. Yes, TikTok. Hello there. Facebook and YouTube's still a bit quieter. Platmat, I can see your question coming up. So that's the problem. We are managed by, and we have big capital projects set up and run by people that have no commercial understanding or experience. So I use this platform to broadcast to 4 channels. I use another platform to take clips and broadcast them out. I use another platform for engagement and distribution of work that I make. So that's 3 platforms. So I'm paying several $100s a year for those 3 platforms. But if any of those platforms don't deliver, they get sacked off because a better one comes in. Governments don't have that. I was trying to register some information on Companies House the other week, and it was impossible to figure out how to do it. Couldn't get any help. Waited for 20 minutes, spoke to somebody who immediately said, "Oh yeah, I can't help you with that." Well, I came from that link to that helpline and they couldn't help. So it's utterly pointless. Platmac, you've been waiting. I know you want to finish, but do you think the UK is going to suffer from sectarianism voting in May, causing a no overall control in many councils? Platmac, it's a big worry. And again, regardless of any individual in this group today, of your beliefs, your religion, your politics, it's moving us away from the concept of democracy. It's moving us away from the concept of what matters to local people, or even in the national level, in a country level, and it's moving us towards the ideological, the activist sound of, we think that country over there, in a different country with different people, things are bad, and we, because we share some similarity with them, which could be ethnicity, which could be religion, could be something else, we are going to vote for anybody that says it's in support of them. And that is a common complaint about people on the left side of politics, is that there's no link to the real world. Instead, it's about ideology and about, wouldn't it be nice if? Yes, it would be nice if, but it negates the actual reality of dealing with where we are right now. Modified Brian says, doesn't matter which party's in power, the civil service and Quangos are actually in charge. I mean, that would certainly appear to be true, wouldn't it? Modified Brian on Insta. We have figureheads that are up. I think the worst part of this is the figureheads appear to be less well informed. It wasn't that many years ago that you could ask on any interviewer, any interview show, you could ask any senior MP to answer questions about pretty much any topic, but certainly their brief, and they could talk about it. They could talk about it in an informed way. You might not agree with them. You might even call some of the figures or statistics in question out, but largely they could do that. We are now at a place where senior members of the cabinet, this government and the last, will be asked the most basic questions and they don't know the answer. And like Steve Reed, who always looks like he's a hungover thug, they get irritated when they get asked these questions. They say, "Oh, well, you've got the answers in front of me." Well, yes, these are basic, reasonable questions. So I agree with you, Modified Brian, but I think we have got a much poorer political class now. I think our politicians are, at best, average. They're not very good at public speaking. They're not very good at making an argument, and they don't appear to have bothered to learn their brief so they can answer questions, which I would expect as a bare minimum they can do. Folks, lovely to see you here on this Sunday. It's been a long live. Lovely hearing all your questions, comments, and observations. I'm going to close up today's live. How many houses, Modified Brian? Sorry, just what's the question with that? How many houses? Where are we going with that? You've lost me slightly. Just see if I can answer Modified Brian's last weird and random question there, and then I will close this live up. If you get that question through to me quickly, Modified, then I will answer it. If not, thank you, Platt. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Steve Reed, how many houses? I don't. Oh, yes, that's the clip. That's the clip, Modified Brian. Yeah. How many houses? You got me now. Yeah. How many houses? How much is it going to cost? How many homeless people was one I saw a couple of days ago? Where does the bridge or the tunnel start from and finish? All of these I've seen. Thank you. Right, folks, lovely to see you all. I will see you next time. Have a great rest of the weekend.